welcome to Season 2 of The Joey Wright Show. I am Joey Wright. We've got a lot planned for this second season of The Joey Wright Show, and it is my honor to be back to host for another year. In this episode, we're going to talk a little NBA, the NBA Finals in full swing. Going to talk about how to kind of fix up the NBA a little bit, because a lot of people don't like the direction it's heading, and I don't blame them. We're also going to talk a little bit of hockey, not a whole lot, because hockey's not as mainstream as basketball. There are no guests today, whatever. It's just going to be me solo, putting the Joey Wright back into the Joey Wright Show. It'll be a fun half hour. There is no monologue this season for the Joey Wright Show. I decided to cut that out. I didn't much care for him last season. If the fans want him back, I'll bring him back later on, but it's not a huge concern of mine at the moment. Looking at my notes here, I do want to mention that I walked here from my home, about a mile and a half walk. Got this Polar Pop Mountain Dew Voltage, and I kind of regret that. That's really not the beverage you want when you walk a mile and a half. But I'd like to thank the entire Mountain Dew family of beverages for everything they've done for me over the last few years. You got Mountain Dew, Diet Dew, Code Red, Diet Code Red, Voltage Livewire, Baja Blast, Pitch Black, Sangria Blast, Whiteout, left that out, and then the entire Kickstart family of beverages. Gotta represent the Dew. So, coming up, we'll talk NBA Finals, Golden State versus Cleveland. It's been an interesting series so far. Cleveland down 2-0 to the Golden State Warriors. Can they come back? I'll answer that question when we come back. Stick with us on The Joey Wright Show. Welcome back to The Joey Wright Show. It's the first episode of Season 2, and I want to reiterate before we get into our talk about the NBA Finals how much of an honor it is to be back hosting the show for another year on Urbana Public Television. It'll be a great season. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, time permitting. Lots that I have planned for this second season of The Joey Wright Show, and it'll be a fun ride all summer long on Urbana Public Television. Let's talk some basketball. This year's NBA Finals in full swing. Everybody seems to have an opinion on this year's Finals. Be you a fan of the Warriors, a fan of the Cavaliers, or someone like myself who has no rooting interest in this series whatsoever. I have a lot of material here about the Finals. It's taken me several takes to just kind of figure out what direction I want to take with this, because there are so many ways that you can look at this year's Finals so far. Again, Golden State leads 2-0. Cavaliers have not won a game yet. The Cavaliers have lost by a combined 48 points between both of the games. They lost by 15 points in Game 1, 33 points in Game 2. Game 1 had a final score of 104-89, and Game 2, 110-77. Losses by margins such as those in the Finals are inexcusable. I mean, this is the NBA Finals. I recognize that Golden State is the better team. They won 73 games in the regular season. That's an all-time record. Both teams have been pretty good in the playoffs. But you can't lose by 15 and then 33 in the NBA Finals. I mean, the Cavaliers aren't that much worse than the Warriors. They're worse, yes. I mean, there's no question about that. But they're not necessarily 33 points worse, or even 15 points worse. You'd think that LeBron James would get that team ready to go for the NBA Finals. LeBron's 2-4 all time in the NBA Finals. These series aren't necessarily his strength. I just don't know how to approach this, because there's so many ways you can look at it. You can look at it, you can take the approach that LeBron James has been doing pretty well, and he's been all right, been pretty good. You can look at it. He's been good, and everyone around him has been terrible. And that's, I think, the most logical approach. The Cavaliers are being outscored by 42 points when Kyrie Irving is on the court. Kyrie Irving is 8 of 9 when he's shooting, straight from the pass, catch and shoot. He's 4 of 27 when he's creating his own shot and not shooting off of a pass. I mean, when 4 of 27, I don't know how to fathom that. They're being outscored, as I mentioned, by 42 when he's on the court. You got to move Kyrie to the 2. You know, you can't have him playing point guard with how he's been performing. And I think positions in the NBA, let me scoot that tablecloth a little bit, they're less cut and dry, I think, than a lot of people think. You know, it's not like 2K, NBA 2K, a game that I'm pretty bad at. I won't hide from that, where you can just, you know, it's set, you have your starting lineup. You know, because you got to do a lot with each position. If I keep going on that tangent, I'm going to back myself down into a hole. But you gotta move him to the 2. You know, regardless of what your stance on the positions is. The things that he's doing at point are not things that you would want from your point guard. You know, you got to move him to the 2. Move Delly to the 1, Matthew Dellavedova. He had a pretty good postseason last year. Great defensive player. So I think that you move him to the 1, you'll have more success than you would if you had Irving playing there. I want to look at the plus-minus for for players from both teams real quick. Segue into that. Plus-minus is kind of a stat that determines, you know, it shows how well you are on the court, like the impact that you have when you're on the court and the impact that you make for your team. You want to have a plus-minus of better than 0, so you want to have a plus, not a minus. Steph Curry's had 27 points between the series. He scored 9 points in Game 1. It was a pretty bad performance, you know, from what you'd expect from Steph Curry. He still had a plus-minus of 0, so he broke even. The best plus-minus for any Cavaliers starter so far in this series belongs to Tristan Thompson with a -3 in Game 1. Kevin Love has been at -8 in both games. He, with that -8, had the best plus-minus of any Cavs starter in Game 2. Only 5 players have had a plus-minus of better than 0, a positive plus-minus in this series and for the Cavaliers. And those 5 players were Channing Frye, James Jones, Dante Jones, Mo Williams, and Timothy Mozgov. None of them played for more than 7 minutes and 10 seconds in Game 1. And I think Channing Frye had a plus-minus of, I want to say like 5. I didn't put that in my notes for some reason. But yeah, when someone who's coming off the bench and playing 7 minutes and 10 seconds has the best plus-minus of any player for the Cavaliers in this series, is in Game 1. It's pretty bad. You can't, you know, no Cavaliers starter has had a plus-minus of better than -3 at any game, any point in this series. It's just the Cavaliers have been playing pitiful basketball. There's no way around that. Steph Curry, as I mentioned, broke even, 0 plus-minus with his performance in Game 1. Only 4 players for the Warriors had a negative plus-minus in Game 1, Andrew Bogut, Ian Clark, Maurice Spates, and Brandon Rush, and no Warrior had a negative plus-minus in Game 2, as opposed to every Cavalier having a negative plus-minus in that second game. I'm not sure how much sense that just made. So we're going to move on from the plus-minus talk. Look at some trends. The Cavaliers have lost 7 games in a row against the Warriors, dating back to the regular season. If you remember back to Christmas Day, they had a pretty poor showing against the Warriors, and that led to their coach, David Blatt, being fired about a month later. About a month later, he was released from the Cavaliers, and that's another point I want to bring up. I think the Warriors, Steve Kerr has been a fantastic coach in the 2 seasons that he's coached the Golden State Warriors. I don't think Mark Jackson ever should have been fired, but they made up for it, more than made up for it, in fact, with the hiring of Steve Kerr to coach that team. He has been a fantastic coach for the team that the Warriors have. And you look at the Cavaliers, I mean, David Blatt and LeBron James. LeBron always wanted to coach that team. You know, the way he behaved on the sidelines some of those games that David Blatt coached, because Blatt had coached the same amount of time that Steve Kerr had coached, 2 seasons, or 1.5, I suppose, up until he was released. Both were hired at the start of the 2014-15 season. LeBron James would, smack the clipboard out of Blatt's hand. Well, he didn't. He did never do that. Maybe he did. I don't know. It seems like something he might have done. But the players Blatt would call, he would say, "No, we're not doing this," and then he'd make up his own play. And I mean, you can't do that to your coach. I mean, come on now. It's the NBA. So, the Warriors have had a much more stable coaching environment than the Cavaliers have. The players like Steve Kerr, the fans like Steve Kerr, everyone likes Steve Kerr. The head coach of the Cavaliers now is Tyronn Lue, and he's been pretty good. I think he's managed LeBron James and the star power that the Cavaliers had pretty well, or have pretty well, and still the present. So if you look at this from a coaching perspective, I think the Warriors are much better coached. Steve Kerr played for the Chicago Bulls back in the day. He's a great three-point shooter. Not at the level, of course, of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, but he knew his way around the three-point shot. He could drain him. Tyronn Lue played for the Lakers. He won I think he won at least one title with the Lakers of 2000, 2001. I'm not sure how long he played for the Lakers, so he might have more than one title with them. I will look that up during the break. But I know he's won an NBA title. Of course, Steve Kerr won a few with the Bulls in the late 90s. What I just said with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, that's why the Cavaliers aren't going to win this series. The Cavaliers could play much better basketball in Game 3, and they're still not going to win. They could play great games in Game 3, Game 4, maybe Game 5. If they can steal a win in Game 3 or Game 4, and I don't think they can, the series isn't going to go more than 5 games. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, when they get hot, it's over. You got Draymond Green, who's been playing pretty good basketball, been playing like an MVP. That Warriors team is spectacular, and you're not going to beat that team if you're playing great basketball, if they're playing great basketball. So it's going to depend what Golden State can do in Game 3 and Game 4. Cavaliers, as I mentioned, they could step it up. They could play great ball at home. If the Warriors are playing great ball like they did in Game 2, it's over. I don't think there's much of a doubt about it that Golden State's going to win this series. I'm calling it right now. It's not going to go more than 5, and I think it's likely going to go 4. So you can put that on billboards. You can put that on TV, on YouTube. This will go on there as well. This series isn't going more than 5, and I think it's likely going to be a 4-game sweep. Another stat, Golden State is 120-1 in the last 2 seasons when they get a lead of more than 15 points in a game. Their only loss, their one loss out of the 120 wins was to the Timberwolves, believe it or not. And only 3 teams have escaped an 0-2 hole to come back and win the NBA Finals. The Celtics of 1968-69 did it against the Lakers. The Trailblazers of 76-77 did it against the 76ers, and the Miami Heat of 2005-2006 did it against my Dallas Mavericks. Mavericks later extracted their revenge on the Miami Heat, and LeBron James took them down in the 2011 NBA Finals. So that about does it for this segment. If it made sense, then fantastic. If it didn't, we will get them with the next segment. And the next segment also will deal with the NBA. There are a lot of fans that are disenchanted with the state of the league, myself included. We're going to talk about how to fix up the NBA a little bit, and that's coming up after the break. Stick with us on The Joey Wright Show. Welcome back into the Joey Wright Show. Before we get into fixing up the National Basketball Association, straighten my bugs out there, I want to clarify that Tyronn Lue won 2 NBA titles with the Los Angeles Lakers. I implied in the last segment that he only won 1. Fixing the NBA. I'm not going to go too into the allegations that people always seem to make these days, the NBA is fixed, rigged, manipulated, whatever. I think that you can say that with about any sporting organization that's prominent in American culture, and that's always going to be a theory that people have when teams that they don't much care for are winning. Oh, the NBA is rigged, or I think that maybe with the NBA that theory holds just a little more water than it does with some other sporting organizations. But I'm not going to go into that, because when you're talking about a league being fixed or rigged or anything like that, there's a lot more with that argument that's going to make it sound like a conspiracy theory than any other argument you try to make, in any other department of operate. I don't know. I like a good conspiracy theory, don't get me wrong, but I don't know where I'm going to go with that. We'll come back to that later. They can be entertaining, but we'll move on. I want to look at players that are going straight to the pros from their freshman year in college. I think that's the single biggest problem with the National Basketball Association right now, is that players are going straight to the NBA from their freshman year of college. Look at Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram, pretty much all the top tier players in the Buddy Hield of Oklahoma. They're all gonna. Did he play 4 years at Oklahoma, or did he just play one? Yeah, I don't even know. Forget that example. But you look at Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram, from LSU and Duke, and maybe Buddy Hield. I'm not sure. We'll look that up. Going straight to the NBA from their freshman year in college. You've got players just not treating college with the respect it deserves and going straight to the NBA. It's hurting the on-court product. And you've got players who, because you've got players who don't know the game as well as they could, who just think they're all that. So what you got to do is you've got to force them to go to college for 2 years at least, or if they want to go to the NBA draft straight out of their freshman year in college, you make them play in the D League for a year. The NBA D League, everyone's favorite minor league association. The D League's actually doing pretty well. You get those prospects, that are going straight to the draft out of their freshman year of college in the D League. First of all, it's going to help the D League kind of gain some prominence. It's going to let those players mature an extra year and kind of get things straightened out off the court. It's going to help them get their intangibles down, improve their game so that when they do come to the NBA and they're playing with the big dogs, they're polished, they're ready to go. And it's a win-win for everyone. Ticket sales for the D League go up because you've got these young players. They're exciting, they're young, they're playing in the D League, and it's just win-win all around. And, of course, they can stay in college for that extra year and get that experience there. It's still a win-win. Everyone, college basketball is great, March Madness and all that. I want to give a brief mention real quick to the NHL Stanley Cup Final. I was just going to mention this. The Penguins leading the Sharks 3-1 in that series. They won in Game 4, a 3-1 victory in that game. Coming up, we will preview Season 2 of The Joey Wright Show, kind of wrap things up a little bit. Stick with us. You're watching The Joey Wright Show. And welcome back to The Joey Wright Show. Now, this episode was like the preseason game before the regular season. And I say that because, this was just kind of getting back in front of the camera, maybe making some sense, maybe not making some sense. That's not for me to decide. I've done all I can do. That's for the viewers at home to determine. But starting next week, I'm gonna hit the ground running and really get back into things with the Joey Wright Show. One of the big things I want to focus on this season, getting some guests that are not Ricardo Vargas or Abram Washington, both those guys, they're great guys, fun to talk to. They know their stuff. But I think, it gets a little repetitive having the same guests over and over and over and over again. They'll probably make an appearance or two, or maybe even 3 this season, but I'd like to find some other guests as well. A few other things this season. I'd like to film something outside, and to all you younger viewers at home, make sure you go out and play outside at some point this summer. It's going to be a hot but beautiful summer. The great outdoors, you can do a lot out there. You can swim, you can run, you can play a sport, you can find a nice hammock and sleep. Those are just 4 of the many options that you can do outside. The guests I do book, there are going to be some pretty good guests if I can get the pieces to fall into place this season. Might bring back the monologue at some point. I'm not sure. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. Joey_Wright99 is my username on Twitter. I have 197 followers. I'm so close to 200. And I had 198 last night. Someone unfollowed me. And if I find out who that person was that unfollowed me, I'm gonna return the favor. You unfollow me, you're probably not worth following anyways. So I'm coming for you. But I'm so close to 200. Yeah, I might not follow back. I might follow back. I don't know. It depends on who you are. I follow 197 accounts and I have 197 followers. But that's a little disproportionate because I follow some accounts like ESPN and stuff like that obviously aren't going to follow me back. So I might follow you back. I might not. 197 followers on Twitter. So be sure to follow Joey_Wright99. That's also my username on Instagram and on Kick. Not sure if anyone still uses Kick anymore. I do. I know a few people that do, but you can talk to me there. Joey_Wright99 is the username. I unfollowed 170 people on Instagram yesterday, so I guess I really don't blame the one person that unfollowed me. But please follow Joey_Wright99 on Twitter, and also chime in there if you have any ideas for the show. Interact with me on there. Hashtag Joey Wright Show, the official hashtag of the Joey Wright Show. It's going to be a fun second season, and I'm really looking forward to it. Can't wait to be back next week, and next week will be a show to watch, so tune in next Tuesday, the Joey Wright Show, back in action in 1 week's time. Have a good one, everybody.